Every day across the planet, millions of people are recording incredible moments from the extraordinary world we live in and sharing them instantly around the globe.
As he struck the car exploded. I wasn't going to let her die.
But we're digging deeper into these viral videos, meeting the people who've captured the most spectacular and dramatic moments. Hey!
It took me 2 seconds to understand that something really, really bad was happening.
To get the story behind the clip. From death-defying escapes.
It had swirled around like a big tornado, and we were right in the middle of it.
And incredible rescues.
All I could think of was that I needed to jump in the water and save him.
To heartwarming surprises.
I think the penguin was very relieved to be out of the water and safe.
Hey, buddy.
And jaw-dropping acts of nature.
It was like a horror movie.
These are the moments you would never believe if they weren't caught on camera. Coming up, a traffic stop with a big twist.
It became very obvious that we were going to have to take action.
It's a race against time for these horse lovers.
The horses, they're in dire trouble, so we had to do something quick.
And a terrifying doorstep attack.
She just turns, and the only thing I saw was this face, and its mouth open, and it was trying to bite her in the neck.
But first, over in Florida, Richard Wilbanks and his wife Louise are enjoying a relaxed retirement in the Sunshine State.
We get up when we want to, go to bed when we want to, and we enjoy going out and socializing.
The couple moved here 3 years ago, and it's fair to say location was everything.
When we first came to Florida looking for housing, we just were so fortunate to find this house that had a wildlife preserve behind it and a pond on the side of it. We just fell in love with it.
And it wasn't long before they welcomed a new addition to the family, a King Charles Spaniel puppy called Gunner.
Gunner has got a personality that matches Rick's. He's very outgoing, very friendly. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's the guy mowing the yard or the neighbor or the little kid on a bike. He just goes up to everybody.
He is right with me continuously, right by my side.
But one Sunday morning, the nature reserve on their doorstep proved to be anything but a walk in the park for Gunner and Richard.
I'd gotten up and fixed a Bloody Mary, lit a cigar, and hooked Gunner up to his leash, and we had started out walking across the pond. I had only had Gunner for a week. He was just a little bitty thing. He only probably weighed about 6 pounds at that time. I had a pair of sunglasses on, and the frame on them broke, and I was fiddling with them, and then the next thing I knew, he had slipped out of his collar, and I heard him just give a kind of a holler and turned around, and I saw the alligators just swimming away with him. As soon as I realized what happened, I just jumped in the water. I guess I was about chest deep in the water when I finally caught up with the alligator and got Gunner's head above the water.
It's at this point a wildlife camera hidden in a nearby tree starts to record the terrifying attack. It captures Richard desperately trying to prise the alligator's mouth open with his bare hands.
An alligator's jaws are like a vice when they close them on something. It's extremely difficult to pry their mouth open. I could actually hear Gunner screaming, and that just, I mean, it was just tearing my heart out because I was afraid he was hurt so bad. And I mean, I was just, I can't put it in words to say how distraught I was and how worried I was. I had absolutely no concern about my safety. The only thing that I was interested in was getting my puppy back. My adrenaline was pumping so hard, it took every bit of the strength I had to get his mouth open to get Gunner out. He came out and ran off about 5 feet and lay down and went in shock.
Gunner is free, but Richard is left grappling with the alligator, which clamps its jaws around his hand.
I really couldn't say what the actual bite felt like other than pressure. You know, it's just something I hope I never experience again. Once I got my hands out, then I got the alligator's mouth closed. I just picked it up and threw it over the fence behind the pond to get it away from Gunner and myself. Gunner was in shock, and I picked him up and ran to the house to, you know, get him to rush to the hospital. My wife was sitting out by the pool.
Rick comes up and he has Gunner in his hands and he's wrapped him in this towel and he says, Gunner's been bit by the alligator. I looked at Rick and then I knew this was not a joke.
I said, you know, we've got to get Gunner to the hospital.
Miraculously, Gunner received only one puncture wound during the attack. The dog's young age may have been what saved him from almost certain death.
Only being 7 weeks old, his bone structure had not fully developed, so his ribs had a lot of give. So when the alligator had clamped down on him, his rib cage gave and compressed, and actually it worked out great because that kept him from getting a whole lot of water in his lungs. It could have been so different. And I picked him up 2 days later, and we went right back out to the pond because this is our house also, and I don't want him to be afraid.
And it's not long before Richard gets a call from the Florida Wildlife Federation, letting him know the attack had been captured on one of their cameras that had been installed to monitor how humans and wildlife share the same space.
They're motion sensitive, and it only runs for so long before it shuts off. That's the reason that they didn't have it from the very beginning and then the very ending.
When I first saw the video, I was devastated and I was crying. I didn't have the sound on. So when I heard it with the sound, I cried even more.
Not only did Richard save Gunner that day, he also managed to save one other very important accessory throughout the ordeal.
I did not realize that I had actually had the cigar in my mouth when I came out of the water, and I didn't know it until the wildlife department showed me the video. I guess my response to them was, well, it's a good thing I had that cigar clamped down in my teeth, because what I would have said might not have been good for, appropriate for other people to hear on that camera.
Coming up, when roadside delivery takes on a whole new meaning.
Oh my God, oh my God.
That's where I was the most anxious. The baby is coming, and there's no stopping at that point.
And flash flooding turns into a life or death rescue.
If I drop the bolt cutters, I'm potentially dropping the only way we can save these animals. So I had to get it right.
Welcoming a new life into the world is a magical and joyous experience. But sometimes the miracle of birth doesn't quite go according to plan. Florida again.
I'm Trooper Michael Allen. I've been with the Florida Highway Patrol for just over 8 years. Our primary function is to respond to traffic crashes in the area and also to enforce the traffic laws.
It's 2 a.m. and Police Trooper Allen and his partner are in pursuit of a vehicle traveling at 83 miles an hour in a 50-mile-an-hour zone. The driver is frantically waving at the officers to approach his vehicle.
My immediate concern was the fact that I could not see his left arm or his left hand, and so I did not know what his intentions were. And so I remained next to my patrol vehicle and began to engage the driver in conversation to find out exactly what was going on.
What happens next is all captured on the police car's onboard cameras.
Okay, do you need me to call an ambulance? Because that's not reason to speed.
He wanted us to escort him to the hospital. However, an escort of that nature creates many dangers, not only for them, but for the other motoring public around as well. And so an escort was not feasible at that point.
You're gonna need EMS, State Road 414 eastbound.
I went ahead over the radio and requested for an ambulance.
I'm doing it.
And after we knew that that had been taken care of, we went ahead to approach the vehicle to actually confirm that there was a pregnant female there.
The ambulance is going to get here before you can get to the hospital.
The pregnant woman in the driving seat is in the late stages of labor after her waters broke at home.
How far apart are your contractions?
I was just trying to gauge what type of time frame did we have and what we were dealing with.
Yep, we got somebody coming. We're going to take you, and I'm not going to worry about the speed. We're just going to get somebody here to get helped out, okay?
After finding out that Mom's water had broke and not hearing any sirens coming our way, it became very obvious that we were going to have to take action.
All right. Okay, we may need to do this. Yeah, you're good.
So we went ahead and laid a blanket out on the side of the road. Dad helped Mom out of the car and get her down on the ground, and we were able to get her head propped up in an attempt to make her as comfortable as possible.
Yep.
But the roadside comes with its own set of dangers.
It was very dark on the roadside. This area of the roadway is known for intoxicated drivers. There are coyotes, there are black bears. On occasion, there have been sightings of our Florida panthers in the area, and so there's any number of wildlife species that could have been out and about.
Auxiliary Trooper Christie is tasked with keeping an eye on the surrounding areas, leaving Trooper Allen to deal with the fast-approaching birth.
Oh my God.
You're okay, just keep breathing.
This is not okay, and I'm not okay. Oh my God, it's coming. Oh.
Dad was communicating with me. He was calm and looked like he was in control, even though, like myself, I'm sure he was chaos on the inside.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, it's gonna come now.
And then the call came out. Dad said, "I think I see a head."
Head and crowning.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
That's where I was the most anxious at that point in time, because when you see the head, the baby is coming and there's no stopping at that point.
Easy. Okay, there we go.
My attention was then to the umbilical cord, praying that the cord was not wrapped around the baby's neck. As soon as the head and the shoulders cleared, the baby arrived very quick. And Dad was able to catch the baby, and so I took a quick look to Mom to make sure that she was still conscious and with us, and then my attention went immediately to the baby. I did not hear a cry right away, and so I began to pat the baby's back with my right hand to help clear out the airways.
Okay, that's okay, Mom.
Oh my God.
Hearing those first cries was such a relief.
The baby looks great. The baby looks great. Baby, how crazy is this? Oh my God.
I had to hold back some tears.
You all are amazing, Mom and Dad. You are amazing. I know.
It's only 11 short minutes since Trooper Allen and his partner first spotted the speeding car.
Wow, that was a lot in a real short amount of time.
Good job, Dad. Good job.
When the ambulance arrived, the paramedics walked over, and they had not received any communication that the birth had actually taken place. And so the first paramedic that walked over to us, he says, "Oh, the baby's here." And I said, "Yeah, man."
So you just hang tight. We're here with you the whole way. Good.
Oh God.
You guys got it. Yeah. You doing okay?
I would have never dreamed in my wildest imagination that I would have ever been part of delivering a baby, let alone a stranger's baby. on the side of the road, especially in the middle of the night. I consider it a great honor to have been able to be there for this event. One question that I get asked often is, did the father receive the citation for the unlawful speed? And absolutely not. There was no way that I was going to take away their joy from a brand new baby girl by giving them a citation.
Sometimes we all need the help of those living nearby, especially when those in distress are helpless animals. This baby elephant in India has fallen into a well. But the local community comes together to dig an escape route for the distressed animal. Spain now, and this wild deer is trapped in the flooded ruins of a building. 5 passing cyclists come together to help save the animal from its watery predicament, narrowly escaping injury themselves. What a rush! We're heading over to Cheshire now, and the home of Richard Lydon.
I live on the south side of Chester, next to the meadows.
But one early January morning, Richard woke up to a very different landscape.
Straight away, I could see brown water all the way as far as the eye could see. It was quite a shock. The whole meadows is flooded, and the water is moving quite rapidly.
Overnight, a storm has hit, causing the nearby River Dee to burst its banks. Richard's immediate concern is for the 4 horses who were grazing in the meadow the previous evening.
I was afraid that the horses might have walked into the river and might have just been washed downstream or something of that nature.
So he asks a friend with a drone to fly over the flooded fields to see if they can locate the missing animals with its camera.
The drone then located the horses. 2 were moving and 2 were not moving. We were very concerned. They're now in a depth of water of maybe 4 to 5 feet. And the water was still rising.
The horses are stranded in a field behind a locked gate. Unless it can be opened, there's a real danger they could drown. But a chance encounter is about to throw Richard a glimmer of hope.
I turn around, and immediately there's a man coming down the lane with a paddleboard over his shoulder. And if by serendipity, he's just appeared from nowhere.
Unbeknown to Richard, the man walking towards him is a neighbour and experienced paddleboarder. Jeff had been monitoring the rising water levels from home and was planning to paddleboard across the flooded fields.
Richard explained quickly that the horses, they're in dire trouble, so we had to do something quick.
Without hesitation, the 2 strangers hatch a rescue mission. Jeff plans to paddleboard towards the horses and open the gate. The drone will continue to keep watch on Jeff's treacherous journey from the air.
So I had to get used to the river pushing me sideways. Also, the environment's totally different. Only the trees higher than shoulder height are visible, and so the whole path is entirely alien. As soon as I arrived, they were startled and ran away and moved back some meters to a safe distance.
So we now know all 4 are able to move. That was a big relief because this is the first time we know that the 4 horses are alive.
The horses are pretty desperate to get out. The wooden fence post that the gate was chained to has been significantly chewed down, where the horses have been trying to get out over several hours, probably. And the gate was too high to jump.
He tries to lift the chain over the gate post at the side of the gate. Unfortunately, this didn't move.
Plan B is to open the padlocked gate with the key, but the lock is under the murky floodwater, meaning Jeff has to do it blind.
I had the keys in one hand, and then I found the padlock with the other hand, and then I was fumbling to try and connect the key into the padlock barrel. But the water was very cold. I was quite rapidly losing sensation. So after a few minutes, I realized I wasn't going to be able to open it with the key because my fingers were just going too numb. And I was concerned that if I didn't open this gate soon, then we might not be able to open it at all, or, it was an urgent problem.
With the horses having been stranded for 7 hours by now, Jeff's last option is to cut the padlock and chain using bolt cutters. It's also the most dangerous.
I was acutely aware that I and the bolt cutters were the horse's only hope at that moment. I kind of felt for the chain, felt for the bolt cutter over the chain with my fingers, tried to avoid cutting the wrong thing, and then sort of squeezed the bolt cutters closed against the board. I had to balance on the paddleboard, keep my weight central so that I didn't tip and fall in against the current that was pushing me away from the gate. That was probably the most difficult thing I had to do. I was getting to the point where if I drop the bolt cutters, I'm potentially dropping the only way we can save these animals. So I had to get it right.
Finally, a breakthrough. The bolt cutters have worked.
That was an amazing feeling to get the gate open, but there was still another hurdle to go in order to get the horses out.
I was expecting the horses to stampede out and rush for freedom, but actually they were very, very scared. And they didn't do anything. They just stood where they were. There was a desperate time when they actually nearly went for the river rather than for the dry land. Luckily, the lead horse stopped them, and they then slowly proceeded towards the gate.
Come on, this way.
Once the stallion was guiding them, the other three started to follow. And we could just see their heads coming out of the deep water, coming up the meadows, which was an amazing feeling, really was.
Come behind me.
We managed to coax them all the way up, and then I turned them into the field. It was relief.
Yes, good horses, good horses.
There we go. Awesome.
Fantastic. Hey. Yeah.
I mean, it's great to have been a part of this exciting, happy story. I'm glad I got to do it, I really am.
I think the stars aligned that morning. I think it was fate that Jeff turned up in his paddleboard. I think it was great that I was able to locate a drone within 5 minutes. It was great that the community came together to help, to search for the horses.
Good horses, yes. Fantastic.
Coming up, when wildlife attacks.
It was probably the scariest thing I've ever experienced in my life.
Now, most of us like to think we'd go the extra mile for the ones we love. But these guys really put it into action. Watch as this boy saves his baby brother from falling off his changing station. Thanks to the 9-year-old's quick reflexes, his 11-month-old sibling was completely unharmed. In Georgia, this 3-year-old girl is struggling to keep her head above water after a mishap with her inflatable ring. Her 10-year-old sister realizes what's happening and immediately reacts, jumping into the pool and saving the girl's life. The toddler went on to make a full recovery. Now to North Carolina, the home of Christy and Leon Wade.
Here in eastern North Carolina, we have a great variety of wildlife. So we really chose this place to be closer to nature, and we do enjoy and love being outdoors. It's just so beautiful here. It really is pretty in here.
And one animal this area is famed for is the wild bobcat.
Usually you'll find them very deep in the woods. They're not huge animals, but very aggressive. It is a smaller version of a lion or a tiger. It truly is a wild animal.
On this particular bright and sunny morning, Leon, who goes by the name of Happy, and Christy were getting ready to take their elderly cat to the vet for a checkup.
Caroline has thyroid problems. She's 15 years old. She was our daughter's kitten.
We lost our daughter in 2006 to an inoperable brain tumor. She was age 4 when she was diagnosed and 5 when she passed away. The cat was a gift for her because she'd always wanted a kitten. And we knew that our daughter's life was coming to an end.
We brought this kitten home, and my daughter, for 2 weeks, got to love this kitten before she died.
It's fair to say that 15-year-old Caroline is an extremely important part of Christy and Happy's life. And taking care of her is one of their top priorities.
The morning of the event, I got up, got showered, got changed. My wife always makes brownies for our vet or something she likes to share with them. Good morning. And my neighbor was jogging that morning. I set my coffee cup down. I'd opened up the back of the car. I was getting something out. And my wife then came out behind me.
And I had my cat in my right hand. And as I stepped out underneath the garage door, I heard a growl. I'm looking under the car to see what's there.
Christy has just come face to face with a wild bobcat.
My first thought was fear, just because I knew the cat was on a mission to get me and probably to get my cat. He sensed that I had her in the cage. I instinctively pushed my left hand behind me. It was the only thing I had to protect myself. And it bit down on my hand. And it used my hand then to crawl up my back. So by the time I got to my husband, the cat was on my shoulder, trying to come around to my right side where I was holding my cat.
She just turns, and the only thing I saw was this face and its mouth open, and it was trying to bite her in the neck. It had bitten her once in the shoulder already. I literally just shoved my arm in. I just wanted to get something between her and what was attacking her.
It was probably the scariest thing I've ever experienced in my life.
It was going to bite her right here. And I don't even, if it had got her in the neck, it could have been bad. It could have been real bad. I literally just shoved my arm in there. That's when it bit me the first time. I'm able to get it like this, and I literally take it like this. As you can see in the video, I get to about here, and that's when I say, oh my God, it's a bobcat. Oh my God, it's a bobcat.
He turns around and lifts it up, and he saved my life.
Oh my God. And then it reaches down and it bites me, and that's the first time I ever felt really any pain because there's no meat there on my knuckle, and I could literally feel its teeth on the bone.
I came back into the house with our cat to keep her safe. And then I went to the sink because my hand was bleeding very badly. It felt at the time like he had ripped, you know, my whole thumb, you know, to pieces.
I saw the woods because we back up to a creek in the woods behind our house. And in my head, I thought, if I throw this thing as far as I can, maybe it will see an escape route and take off. And it immediately, it didn't hesitate. It went right back towards where my wife and the cat was. So I did draw my pistol, and I knew that attacked one, it'll attack more. Watch out! And we have a lot of children in our neighborhood, a lot of older adults in our neighborhood. So when it presented the opportunity for me to take a shot to put it down, I did. Not 15, 20 seconds later, our local police department and our local sheriff's department both showed up in front of our house. About the same time, so did the ambulance.
With the bobcat now dead, attention quickly focuses on Happy and Christy's injuries.
He said, sir, you need to go see the ambulance, you're bleeding. And it was that point, like I said, I knew I'd gotten bit on the hand, but I didn't know about the scratches and the other bites on my arm. And he said, you're bleeding pretty good.
When my friends and neighbors came in the house, they could see that I was scratched up and bleeding through the shirt that I was wearing. Everything happened at one moment. It was just crazy. It was craziness, that and fear.
My wife, she had 8 to 10 really deep puncture wounds and about 20 puncture wounds total. She had 3 bite marks also. So I had a lot of emotions that morning. In a 16 seconds, I went from, hello, happy days, and to, I'm gonna nail that sucker.
Their injuries meant that Happy and Christy were at serious risk of catching rabies, a deadly infection.
We ended up both having to get about 30 shots each that first day, and then we had 5 more shots that we had to get over a series of 2 weeks. So we had about 35 shots each.
Luckily, Catherine the cat escaped unharmed. And Christy is forever indebted to her husband for his brave actions that day.
I don't know what I would have done had I been by myself. I don't want to really think about what shape I would have been in.
I'd give her my last breath. The day I saw her, I was in love. And 37 years later, there's nothing that I would not do for her.
Coming up, a daring rescue in New York's East River.
I made a lunge for her, and she actually came at my face.
He's bleeding. Look, he's bleeding.
And a young woman gets the surprise of her life.
So I looked back, and I could see crowd forming behind me. So I thought, okay, this is getting big.
No man is an island, especially when he's in need of help. And sometimes a good Samaritan is closer than you think. This security camera is keeping watch on the streets of Istanbul. It captures a 17-year-old who's spotted a toddler in an open second-floor window. Unable to alert her parents, he's keeping watch on the 2-year-old. Out of nowhere, she falls, hurtling towards the ground, and is caught by the quick-thinking teen. The toddler was unhurt and swiftly reunited with her relieved parents. This dash cam is fitted to a car driving in Cardiff. It captures the moment a pedestrian throws himself against a thief trying to escape police, knocking him off his bike and onto the ground. An officer gives chase to the thief, who's wielding a knife. He runs away on foot, but then another pedestrian throws himself against the man, taking him down for a second time. Thanks to these brave civilians, the police were able to apprehend their suspect. New York's Manhattan, home to one of the most iconic skylines and waterways in the world.
Manhattan is an island between the Hudson and the East River. There are a lot of ships out there, a lot of boats, and there's super turbulent flow. Definitely not a place you'd want to be caught in if you're in the water.
In May 2019, Gabe Castellanos was celebrating his birthday near the waterfront. The outdoor venue on a barge allowed party guests to enjoy an enviable backdrop.
Our group were just enjoying talking, conversing, having drinks. And you could hear in the background more and more people started saying, wow, there's a dog in the water. It kind of made you think of how exactly did the dog get there? And you could slowly start seeing how she went from being able to swim laps around the water to getting tired. And her head just was sinking slowly into the water, but she was still paddling around. I was just a bit frustrated with seeing everyone filming on their phones rather than trying to actually find a way to help.
The dog looks exhausted and appears to be struggling against the choppy waters. By now, it's been 15 minutes. It's clear that something needs to be done, and fast.
I started thinking, it's like, wow, either someone's gonna try to help this dog, or we're all gonna watch a dog get swept away in the river.
Gabe decides he has no choice but to leave his own party and go and rescue the struggling dog. Suddenly, all of the attention is on the birthday boy.
I had the life vest on, so then I decided to climb over the railing and lower myself down. I was actually a little nervous then. I thought I was gonna drop in very close to where the dog was, because at the time, the dog was under the pier. Then soon after I got ready to jump in, the dog started swimming back towards the barge. Her head was getting a little bit lower, and she was swimming a little bit slower.
With the dog fading, it's a race against time. It takes Gabe a full 10 minutes to reach her. All the time, he's trying to stay away from the strong currents.
I made a lunge for her, and she actually came at my face.
He's bleeding. Look, he's bleeding.
She ended up biting me here on the side and breaking up one of my teeth. But my adrenaline was so high at that point that I did not realize.
As the terrified dog repeatedly bites Gabe, it's becoming harder and harder to keep them both safe in the water.
I reached out again, and she grasped onto my left hand. I kind of shook her off. That's when I realized that I'm gonna get bitten the rest of the way. So I grabbed her just in front of her collar where she can't turn her head back towards me. So my hand's actually acting like a buffer to prevent her from turning fully back. All I was focused at this point is, look, we got her, we're bringing her back in. I was able to get her onto the rocks without issue. And, you know, the story gets even more interesting because we come to find out why she was actually in the water.
Enter Erin, the dog's beloved owner.
Harper is very, very anxious and very loving once she gets to know you, but she can get very scared very quickly. On the day Harper was picked up by the dog walker, a taxi blew a stop sign while they were crossing the road. So the dog walker was hit by the car and got knocked down. And when they came to, Harper was gone.
Erin arrives home to a big shock.
On the news, there was aerial footage of my dog swimming in the middle of the East River. It was unbelievable. It was jaw-dropping. So when I got her, she was all wet and she was bleeding. Hi, hi, hi.
It's been 2 years since the rescue, but Gabe and Erin have never met in person. Until today.
Hello. How is everything?
I owe Gabe everything. It was an incredibly selfless gesture.
Great, thank you so much. I mean, this is amazing. This is tenfold.
She wasn't in a good place. And for Gabe to recognize that and to take action was an absolutely incredible feat.
I don't consider myself a hero. I would hope that if I hadn't jumped in, someone else would have. But without hesitation, I would do it all over again.
It's an incredible video. I still watch it with friends. It's one of our favorite videos to share because it's really incredibly heartwarming.
If there's one thing that's guaranteed to make us feel warm and fuzzy inside, it's romance. Every day, all around the world, millions of couples declare their love for one another. Some more successfully than others. This Californian couple have chosen a stunning ocean backdrop for their wedding photos. But their romantic day is about to turn into a nightmare. A large wave crashes over the rocks, pulling the bride and groom out to sea. Just in time, lifeguards arrive and manage to get the husband and wife back onto dry land. Let's hope the bride's dress wasn't dry clean only. This just-married couple are posing for photos on the streets of Beirut in Lebanon, when suddenly across town there's an explosion at the shipping port. The shockwave from the blast rips through the street where the couple are standing. Despite the shock and confusion, thankfully the couple and their wedding photographer managed to flee to safety without injury. For some, romance can be spontaneous, while for others, it's carefully orchestrated. After a lot of planning, Toronto-born Jonathan Wan managed to turn his life's passion into a wedding proposal to remember.
I started breakdancing in grade 7 with a couple friends, and we ended up doing it all the way up until high school.
And it was while Jonathan was at high school that he met the love of his life and partner of 16 years, Ellen.
I was actually introduced by a friend to John, and I did not know a thing about him. He was a complete stranger to me.
Ellen didn't breakdance, but she did join the breakdancing club. I definitely tried to use it to woo her.
After winning over Ellen with his moves, it wasn't long before Jonathan began secretly planning how to pop the question. When the time was right, of course.
We watched a movie together called Friends with Benefits, and there was a scene where they were in a flash mob. So I remember watching that and thinking, that's something I want to do for Ellen when it's time to propose.
Fast forward a few years to central London, where the couple are now living.
John was very excited that day. He was acting kind of goofy, kind of silly.
Walking through Leicester Square on their way to dinner, Jonathan and Ellen are stopped by what appears to be a tourist asking if they'll take his photo. But not all is as it seems.
I remember there was a boy in front of us who started dancing and then music came on. So I had asked the girl beside me if that was her friend that was dancing in front of us, and she said yes. I was just like, oh wow, that's cool. So John and I just kind of stood there to see what was gonna go on next. And then more dancers started, and so I thought, okay, this is getting big. And so I looked back and I could see crowd forming behind me. And then after that, I told John, you should join. And he's like, no, I'm not good enough.
There were so many things that I felt like could have went wrong, but once the music starts and you're kind of in the moment and everyone's there and everything's planned out, it's go time.
I could feel that he was taking his keys and wallet and he put it in my pocket, and then he kissed me on the cheek, and then he walked around to join them. And at that moment, my heart just stopped.
There were 1,000 things that I could have gone wrong. I was also scared maybe the police kind of stop us, or she could have said no. Maybe she didn't want to, or it wasn't ready at the time.
Well, it seems to be working so far for Ellen.
I got really excited to see his dance moves again. It brought back a lot of high school memories. I remember that one dance move where he hops on one hand. That's basically his move. When I was dragged into where the dancers were, I couldn't help but just start tearing. I think just all my emotions just came to me, rushing to me. I was so happy. I was so happy. In my head, I was thinking, this is finally happening. This is the moment, and he actually caught me off guard.
I had the ring in my pocket, which I kept thinking like, oh, I better not, move my body in a weird way, and it might drop out and kind of ruin the moment.
When John popped the ring and got down on one knee, I feel like my heart kind of stopped. I didn't even know that people were around us. It was just him and myself. And it was, at that moment, I was just really happy that we're finally going to be husband and wife.
I knew Ellen was the one because, there was just a sparkle in her eye, and she was just always very positive and generous and kind and had a good heart. It was well worth it.
It really felt like the crowd was with me with this proposal, even though my Canadian family and friends weren't there. These complete strangers really congratulated us, so that felt really nice.
The following day, the couple flew to Toronto to tell their friends and family the exciting news. But back in London, with the happy moment caught on camera, Jonathan's elaborate proposal quickly goes viral.
I had sent it to one person at my workplace, and that was it. And that one person sent it to, everyone else at work, and pretty soon it just went kind of viral.
The video of their proposal has now been watched more than 6 million times online.
I still can't believe this is happening. Having that video, it's so special, super special. Having that being caught on video means so much more to John and I, so much more to our families, to our friends. I'm really, really happy that people were able to catch that on camera.
Ellen, so are we.
I think I want to marry you.
Tomorrow night on ITV, with the sisters still trying to make sense of things, Hollington Drive is rocked by a grim discovery. Our brand new thriller continues at 9.